Welcome to the UI experience. Welcome to the UI experience.
Good afternoon, UI, and all those out there in internet listening land. This is yours truly, Jalal Tariq, Ghost in the Machine, with episode number 26 of the UI Daily Show. I apologize for how late we started today. I had some minor technical difficulties that I had to straighten out. It just seems to be a technical difficulties type day. But in any event, I'm glad that you're out there listening, and I'm happy to be here with my two partners in crime, my two compadres, my best buds, Patrick Irvine and Terry Banks. Say hello to the people.
What's going on, brothers and sisters of the UI fam?
How you doing?
And we got to get that echo out of here. Can you all hear that echo? Whose speakers are up?
Not mine. But in any event, as we start off every show, we have to come to people and we have to let people know that the revolution may not be televised, but it must be funded. And we are currently in the UI membership drive. And if you want to become a member of Urban Intellectuals, I implore you to go to urbanintellectuals.com/members. And for the low price of $2 a month or $24 a year, you can become a member of our group and all of the perks and things that go along with it. I have no idea what that is. That was weird. That's right, we're running ads already. In any event, if you would just like to donate to the cause, we also have a donation function where you can go to urbanintellectuals.com/donate, and you can donate to your heart's desire to try and keep this. I mean, if you like this and if you like what we do every day and all day in our myriad number of shows, our different social media outlets, we're on Twitter, I don't think we're on Instagram yet, but we're on Reddit, we're on just about everything. If you can name it as a social media platform, UI is there. We're branching off into videos. We want to do movies. We want to do everything that we possibly can to move forward our ideals. Those ideals being, for the most part, moving our black community forward. So, as if you want to donate or if you want to become a member, just go to urbanintellectuals.com, either /members or /donates. Now, that being said, today's first topic. I don't know how many of you out there in listening land, I don't know about Pat, I don't know about TB, voted for our president, our commander-in-chief. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm coming across as a slam on the president, but I think that we do ourselves a disservice as, the black community in general when we don't hold President Obama to the same standards of criticism that we do any other person in the White House. A lot of people voted for President Obama based upon his promise that he was going to bring our troops home and that he was going to reset relations with Russia, that he went to the Muslim world. He gave a big speech, I think it was in Cairo, Egypt at that time, and talked to them about, hey, this is the way to move forward. Instead of coming at you with a fist, we're going to come at you with an open hand, and if you reach back, then we'll be here to join you. And we all have common interests and common goals, and that's basically a peaceful world for everybody to live in. Fast forward 6 years. Here it is, 2014. We are not only dropping bombs on Iraq, we are still in Afghanistan. We are now dropping bombs on Syria, and without getting into the whole Israel-Gaza thing, it would seem that our president is moving more toward militancy and warmongering as opposed to peaceful relations with other countries. And I realize that this is a tough world that we live in, that there are threats out there. But anybody that's reading between the lines might say that none of the groups that we are currently, quote unquote, at war with are realistic threats to the United States of America. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that, and I kind of wanted to see what people's views were on how President Obama his foreign policy, how he's handling his foreign policy. Terry, what you think?
All right. Well, I support President Barack Obama, voted for him both times. And if he would have run a third or fourth time, I'd have to consider whether or not I vote for him again. That's not a slam against him. It's just that it's obvious that there are a lot of people of the white race that simply are causing problems with this man's presidency. They're interfering with any plan that he has to do anything. I wouldn't care if that man wanted to take a vacation. They're going to say he's taking too much time. You know, if he wanted to take his wife out for a night on the town, they're going to say he's spending the country's money. I mean, ever since he's been president, there's been nothing that he's been able to do that they've had wanted to go along with. So this really is more symbolism now. We're getting ready to go to war again. He goes up, he has his suit on, and he makes this message and says, okay, we're going to go to battle. The only difference this time is that this action against these Muslim targets, he has some other people with him now. He's gone and got a coalition of other Arab nations that are going to be involved in this. So it's actually still a work that's in progress. So the president really didn't have a solid strategy because, number one, you have to sit with both sides of the House and have general discussions where both sides can come together and come up with a solid plan. He's never really had the other side, meaning the Republican side, even want to sit at the table with him and listen to anything he has to say. And it's no different now. The only reason they're doing it now is because they're under pressure from the Arab nations to do something. So this pressure has made him come out now and say, okay, we've got to, do something. So as he has these other Arab nations, as a matter of fact, I believe Saudi Arabia is involved. The United Arab Emirates are involved. Jordan's involved. Bahrain is involved. And Qatar is also involved. So the first thing is he's making sure that, okay, it's not just us. It's not just America going out here and we're trying to conquer the world. But the strategy is developing. It's ongoing. So the debate on this strategy is still going to be ongoing as well. So before anyone starts trying to come out and, you're ready with the, black militant attitude of the president is a white man undercover and all this nonsense, just be sure you do your research first and you clearly understand that he's under pressure that no one else has been under in the history of this country. First of all, just for the race that he is and the fact that the other side said from the moment he was elected that they only intended for him to be a one-term president, to John Boehner wanting to impeach him for nonsense. And it's just, the man has been under attack. That's just the realistic truth of it. And so this is just a thing where as president and leader of this country, he's trying to find the best way to deal with this issue. He has envoys that are on his side, telling him which direction he should go on, trying to figure out the main way to attack this problem. There's a lot going on here, something that most of us sitting behind microphones or sitting in our houses, sitting comfortable, we would never know if we could even handle the kind of pressure that he's under. So before we begin to start trying to attack, let's really consider what will we do ourselves if we were the president of the United States in terms of our foreign policy.
And all those are good points. But I guess the pushback, the converse to that, to those views would be, okay, yes, he's under pressure, but my biggest problem with how President Obama handles his foreign affairs is he needs to fire all of his advisors because he has a tendency of letting them push him out in front of the people to make statements that then later on he can't possibly live up to. I'm not going to do this. Under no circumstances am I going to do this. And then it becomes, because this came up, now I have to do this. And Don't get me wrong. I realize that he has a lot on his plate. I realize that there are things that he knows about certain situations that we will never be privy to. You can look at his physical deterioration over the last 6 years to see that man is under a lot of pressure. But I have always thought that he would be a strong president in the sense that George Bush was. George Bush didn't have, true enough, he didn't have the people against him, the Congress against him. But when you're in a situation where no matter what you do, you're going to be called on it, then do what you think is right. And I can't see how the Barack Obama who ran in 2008, I can't see that idealistic person being somehow different now, just simply because of what he's learned. But that's my thing. Patrick, what do you think about that, my friend?
Well, I agree with both sides, actually. I think President Obama is definitely under a lot of pressure, and he's dealing with things that probably no other president can relate to outside of maybe Abraham Lincoln. So, you know, and obviously Abraham Lincoln isn't here to give him any advice. So, I think we definitely have to consider the fact that we see all presidents going through pressure. They all look older, considerably older when they finish their presidency than they did before they went in, except for Bill Clinton, who seems to ironically have, you know, maybe gotten younger through his presidency, but, you know, now he looks old and messed up now. So maybe all that other stuff caught up to him after the presidency. But in any case, I just think it's one of those things. For me, I've always been overly critical of, or not overly, I've always been critical of Barack Obama, President Obama, because I've always wanted to see him be successful, and I never wanted to operate under the guise of supporting him just because he's black, especially with the position that he's in. So I've always had the same amount of criticism for him that I've had for George Bush. Now, in saying that, you also have to acknowledge the difficulties that he's run up against that George Bush didn't have to deal with, such as being surrounded by a group of quote-unquote peers and politicians that just flat out don't like you. Now, when it comes to this wartime thing, I think the biggest problem President Obama has is, like you said, Kenneth, his advisors. I think a lot of them are mainstays from the Bush camp, and the few that aren't seem to carry over a lot of similar ideologies. And he's an inexperienced politician, which you'd hope that everybody in politics would be inexperienced, because that's supposed to be the nature of American politics. The amateurs run the show. But being that he's an inexperienced politician, he's an amateur playing professional ball at the highest level. And he's getting maneuvered and manipulated, I think, in a lot of ways. And his responses to this ISIS situation, in my opinion, are just more manipulations. Now, this is different from what was happening before, where there was a surge in military troops in Iraq in an effort to end those wars. There was a surge in military troops in different areas where we were already at war when he came in to end those wars. He said he wanted to bring the troops home in a certain amount of time. He got in office. He found out, well, hey, you know, they telling me I can't do this. Ain't nobody trying to work with me, so I can't do this. But there was still an effort, a surge made to try to end those wars. What makes this different and what has everybody questioning is this is his war. I mean, obviously, ISIS is something that created, but going into this area is all on him. Like, there is no other situation that you can push back on Bush, where troops were already stomping on the ground or whatever the case may be. So we have to really begin to evaluate what's going on wholly, because for the last 6 years, as you guys said, this man has been very much against putting troops on the ground, and he still seems to be very much against putting troops on the ground. If you listen to his comments, he says there are going to be guys there as trainers and whatnot, and he's still reluctant to put boots on the ground. He's opted to operate more covertly when it comes to military matters, to send in drone strikes, to send in special forces, small units of elite troops, to do things to keep war out of the headlines. And I think that's been mainly an effort to deal with some of the military issues that we have around the world, but also to save face as a president that doesn't want America back at war. So I think this, although it might be a step in the light, I don't think it's a step in a necessarily new direction. I just think a lot of people haven't really been paying attention to a lot of the covert war strategies that the president has been implementing since he got in office. So I don't, as far as the label wartime president or Obama's new war persona that everyone's trying to give him, I think that's just hyperbole. I think it's blown out of proportion. I think it's just people sensationalizing rhetoric. The man still seems to be following true to his line, which is, I'm going to resist putting boots on the ground at all costs, but I am in favor of small elite forces and other outside-the-box ways to deal with military threats. Now, if you want to talk about whether or not ISIS or ISIL or whatever we want to call them, whether or not they're a legitimate threat to Americans, then that's a whole separate conversation. And even in that, we have to acknowledge the fact this has shown us, if nothing else, this has shown us that the president is not this all-powerful person that can do whatever they want. The president is subject to extreme pressures. They're subject to a bunch of other people that have more power, that have more resources, and they're largely a puppet head. The president might as well be the Queen of England. Now, he does have some powers, just like the Queen has some powers. But largely, the country is run by the Congress or the oligarchs or the people that have all of the money. So in that, we have to stop putting so much focus on President Obama and start putting more focus on your local congressman.
Well, no, you're on point. But let me continue that. Let me continue this discussion about the president. First of all, the president is not the one who went into Iraq in the first place. That was under the previous administration. And so when they decided to pull out of Iraq, there were many people who said, okay, now is the time to pull out. Americans were tired of the war. They were tired of their sons and daughters coming back in boxes. So they put pressure on Bush to pull out. Okay, we pull out. Now a new president's in. Now they're blaming this new president because the war is re-erupting. But there are those who would suggest that we should have maintained a presence in Iraq in the first place, as opposed to now going out and then coming back in. There are those who would suggest, okay, perhaps we should have intervened in Syria before now. So you can't just say this is all on President Barack Obama because we are now getting ready to go back to war. As far as him being a figurehead, every president is just a figurehead. No one rules by themselves. That's just all it is to it. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in the late 50s and early 60s, John F. Kennedy was that kind of a figurehead. Did he have full power? No. He had to listen to what other people in his cabinet had to say. The difference in these presidents and the one now is the color of the skin. It's the race of the president that's involved. Kennedy got support when support was needed. Bush got support when support was needed. Obama does not get support when support is needed because they are so focused on this man's race and this man's ethnicity that they refuse to work with him. They want him to fail. Again, it is on tape with a high-ranking politician saying, our goal is for this man to be a one-term president. That says right there, they were behind closed doors at their golf clubs and country clubs saying all along that no matter what this man does, we're going to go against it. So the pressure that he's under now is a pressure that no other president in the United States has ever been under, because all those other presidents were white. And when wartime came, be it the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, even be it up to today, they had race on their side, and they had people in Congress who were of the same race as them, same gray-haired, white-haired dudes behind closed doors saying, okay, we'll go ahead and side with you. This president doesn't have that on his side. He doesn't have allies. Every single military person has this general consensus among them that this effort is going to fail. Now, again, this is the United States military leaders who are supposed to be getting with this president and doing everything they can to instill confidence in this president, and they're all back here saying, this is just not going to work. So you can see that this is, if we do fail, I'm not going to put it all on Barack Obama. It's just like the three of us sitting here right now behind this microphone. If we have a terrible show, an absolutely horrible show that fails, is it only Kenneth's fault? When the two of us are sitting here as well and have some input as to how we should take this show? No, it's going to be our fault collectively. So if this fails, it is not just the president's fault. It's going to be the Republicans, the Democrats, everyone in Congress's fault collectively.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And, we liken the president to a quarterback, though. They get all the praise when things go good, and they get all of the ridicule when things go bad. And is it fair? No, because there are 10 other guys on the field that have some input as to how the game goes. But it's how the game goes. Me personally, I personally don't think it's going to work. But I agree with you in the sense of it's not all on President Obama.
Because he didn't decide to do this on his own. The point is, he did not just decide, okay, I'm going to just go to war on my own. See, this is what I'm trying to say. There are people behind closed doors who had already made decisions as to the direction that they wanted this administration to go. So they're doing things that none of us can see because we're just here. We're sitting in our homes. We're sitting in wherever we're sitting, radio stations, work, wherever you are. We don't know what is being said behind these doors. But the end result is that when they put that president out there to make his statement, he looks plastic. He looks like, okay, I'm just going out here and I'm going to say what these people behind closed doors have said I should say. So it goes back to what we said earlier. No, there is no confidence like there was when he first began his term as president, even when he was running for president, when he had all that confidence and I'm going to do this thing. We're going to become a united America, because he had no idea that once he got elected, how many people who actually do not like black folks would come out like leeches out of a dead carcass and just attack this man on every front for everything he done, both foreign and domestic. Look at the domestic issues that they will not work with him on. And you think he's going to be successful in a foreign strategy? Come on.
Wait. Let me jump in here, right? And I understand everybody's points. Me, on the other hand, I agree with 99.9% of what everyone has said. My 1% comes in, if you didn't want that job, you shouldn't have run for that job. And this is why I say that. Yes, you are a figurehead. Yes, there is certain pressures that you have to abide by. Let's put it like that. And all the way up until 2012, I gave him that amount of latitude. You got to get reelected. Once he became president for his second term, what the hell they going to do to you? What kind of pressure can they put on you? You'll never run for elected office again in life. This is about your legacy now. You see what I'm saying? And the thing about it is that if we sitting at home can know certain things about the inner workings of the United States government, if we can know certain things about why we do some of the things that we do as far as foreign affairs is concerned, then you telling me that you, a constitutional law scholar, one of the brightest presidents in the history of this country, can't figure out that, one, you can't win a war with air power. That has never worked ever in any conflict. Two, you cannot solve a war in Afghanistan that has been going on for thousands of years. They've ran everybody that's ever went into Afghanistan out. 3, if you are going to be the peace-loving president, if you are going to be that president that you stood there and pulled your shirt open and showed that big S on your chest and said, this is going to be a different administration, dude, stand up and let it be a different administration. What are they actually going to do to you? You're not the CEO of General Motors. You cannot be removed by your board of directors. They can try and impeach you. They can kill you. That is about the only thing that they can really do to you, because we know that there are powers to be behind the president of the United States that actually makes things happen, that actually gets things done. That's a given. We know that. However, he could have been the first president in the history of this country that pushed back against it. He came in hoping change. This is going to be different. We're going to be transparent. But nevertheless, you have killed more people from 30 miles away with drones than Bush did his entire presidency. You have continued most of the despicable practices that George Bush did during his administration. And now we're going to say, oh, well, he can only do so much because the white man ain't going to let him. No, that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. Just like we tell some brothers when they get on the page and they get on Facebook or they get on some of our social media sites or they comment on it, hey, man, the white man, well, yeah, forget the white man. What are you doing? You see what I'm saying? I can't get that man that cop-out like that. I can't say President Obama has pressure on him. You're the president of the damn United States. Show some backbone. No, I'm not. You're going to bomb them people. They are not a threat to the United States. They don't have a boat. They don't have a plane. They don't even have a standing army. You basically dropping $5,000 bombs on $50 huts trying to kill these people. You don't know them from the civilian population. You killing kids. You killing women. You bombing schools, trying to kill some people that credible intelligence sources have told you was in a room. And then he show up on a video 2-3 weeks later and you miss. But what about them 50 people you just killed? What about them? What about their right to live? You see what I'm saying?
Here's the deal, though. And I am a fan of not giving him a cop-out, which is why I said some of the things I said earlier. But I think when you're talking about President Obama, you're talking about somebody, and that's where I spoke to him being an amateur playing in pro ball.
Yes, sir.
He's inexperienced. He doesn't know the way the game works. I mean, he had only been a congressman for 4 years?
Something like that.
And yeah, he studied constitutional law when the man is extremely intelligent. But when you get, all of us know that the Constitution, what the Constitution says is supposed to be happening and what's really happening are two completely different things. So, that's something we can all piece together. And then there's something to be said about going back to him being naive, his naivety on where America stood in terms of race relations. You could tell if you look at his first campaign, he honestly did not expect what he got when he got there. Now, for you or me, for us on this call going into that position, look, we know better. We've been groomed. We can see it. We live it. We know what it means. We know that if you step into that position, all of them white boys and the good old boys club is going to make life difficult. I don't think Obama had that realization, and I think it was kind of culture shock for him to step in there and see that. And if you read his books or if you look at the way he grew up, that's an understandable situation for him to be naive in. It's very understandable because I'm not saying he hasn't had any racist experiences, but he has always had the fallback of a white family to console him. We haven't had that. So it puts things in a different perspective. when you're studying constitutional law, and we see the same thing in people that study psychology in the books and never actually go out into the world to practice and see it, you develop this idealized notion of the way things work. And it begins to drift further and further from reality the further and further you get from real world practice. Academia is a dangerous place because it can distort the mind. And I think that is another avenue where naivety set in. Now, the man is a very smart man. No, nobody's taken away from that. Whereas we could call George Bush dumb as a box of rocks in the rain on Tuesday. You can't say anything to talk about President Obama's intelligence. The man is extremely intelligent, and I think that's one of the reasons they dislike him even more. But I just think he was too naive. In being naive and in not knowing and being ignorant, you're easy to manipulate by those that do. And I think that's what we're facing with President Obama, is simply a man that's easily manipulated, not because he's stupid, not because he's lazy, just because he's inexperienced. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Terry.
First of all, I disagree that it's a cop-out because, again, if you're the president of the United States, you need support from both sides of the House to make any moves, period. That's just all it is to it. So it's not a cop-out if he's failing, and strictly because those who are supposed to work with him have turned their backs on him and are facing the opposite direction. He's not the only president to go to war. As a matter of fact, during the Vietnam War, Nixon went into Vietnam, and everybody clearly said, get your ass out of Vietnam. What are you doing there? And so he's bombing huts with little innocent kids and civilians and things in it. Okay, so there's no difference. So again, let's not try to put this president out there as if what he's doing is somehow so evil, as if it's never been done before. Nixon did that in Vietnam. Did we win Vietnam? Hell no. We did not win in Vietnam. Who was the president? Was it a black man? No, it was a white man. Wait, it was a white man, though. What?
Terry.
What?
Pump your brakes. First of all, Nixon didn't say that he wasn't going to do that. That's the difference. President Obama came out and said that it was going to be different.
Right. Now and you're with me. But here's the thing about it. The difference, though, is that you're dealing with a president who made a decision with other people of his race behind closed doors saying, we support you. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. This president has not had that kind of luxury. So at some point, he had to make a decision outside of them and say, I got a choice I have to make. Okay, so now we're attacking his choice, but the man had to make some kind of choice. Again, he's not only getting pressure from here in the United States, he's getting pressure from overseas. That's why he now suddenly has these allies in Arab countries that are saying, we support you coming over here and trying to help us out. So you're looking at a president that's being pulled in two directions. Like, remember that little toy we used to have, Stretch Armstrong, where you take one end of his arm and the other end of his arm, you could pull him, and he would just stretch. That's what this president is doing. He's being stretched by both sides all across the globe, and he can only do so much. That man is human, and we all can see that. So what I'm saying again is, if we look at his presidency and its historical context, he is not that far behind in terms of his approval rating as was George Bush, period. If you look at the numbers show that he's somewhere around 48% in his approval rating through 5 years in office. Where was Nixon at? 49%. Where was Bush at? 49%. So, again, he's not that far off if we're going to just say this man is a bad president. You'd have to look at Nixon and Bush and say they were bad presidents too. The difference, no. Bush and Nixon happened to have been Caucasian men, and at some point they would have other Caucasian men that were willing to work with them to try to get an issue resolved.
But see, this is the thing, TB. Nobody's saying that he is a bad president. What we're saying is that he could be a better president if he, in my estimation, in my opinion, if he would quit trying to please people who he can't please. Everything that he has done, if you can look at Obamacare, you can look at immigration, you can look at most of his major platform decisions have been based upon what the response is going, or the non-response is going to be of Congress and the Republicans. Fuck them. They not going to. You can come up with a cure for cancer, and they will come out and say that it's a plot to kill people or something like that. This dude, if you can't do nothing right, do what the hell you want to do. That's all I'm saying. And if you came in, you said you was going to do this. You said that you was going to do that. And yeah, it's naivete, all that's fine. Yes, you need help to do certain things. Not denying that. But what I'm saying is within the realm of your powers as the President of the United States, you are taking us backwards as opposed to taking us forwards. And I say that because of this. And we do need to move on to the next topic. That way we can come back to this at another time. I say that because of this. When you bomb people indiscriminately, when you attack other countries without a formal declaration of war in the guise of quote-unquote fighting terror, what you end up doing is you end up inflaming the passions of those people who you bombing. You drive more people to terrorism than you actually kill. Because guess what? You done just dropped a bomb on the house next door and killed my daughter over here. What you think I'm getting ready to do? What do you think my view of the United States government is going to be? Or the European governments, or the UK, or Saudi Arabia, or whoever it was that dropped that bomb trying to kill somebody that only has a rifle, that only has a pistol. Yeah, they doing barbarous things. I'm not taking nothing away from the evil and the just clear, just wrongness of ISIL, ISIS, the Caliphate, whatever you want to, Al-Qaeda Light, whatever you want to call them this week. I'm not taking away from any of that. What I'm saying is that you, out your mouth, in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, millions of people have watched your speeches by now. You got a YouTube channel where you get in here and you tell us that it's going to be different, and it's not. That's all I'm saying. In any event. Now, on to topic 2. We'll come back to this, y'all. We'll come back to this because I know y'all probably got comebacks for all of that. And we can argue about President Obama. I love to do it. Believe it or not, it may not sound like it, but I love it. I didn't vote for him, but I didn't vote for him because of the naivete situation. I didn't vote for him because I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he stood for other than what he said. So the only reason why I would have voted for him was because he was black, and I can't do that. That would make me a hypocrite, because then I can't point my finger at the white dude who said he voted for Bush because he's a white dude. Anyway, that being said, I love him. Got all the respect in the world for him. I think he's wrong, but I got all the respect in the world for him. Topic number 2. Bombshell came out. I don't know who all read the articles. We've been trying to do a little bit more digging around, but E.T. dropped it on the radio pod that a grand jury in Ohio has declined to indict the 2 officers who executed John Crawford in that Walmart with that toy gun. And we still have not seen the video. I can go into Walmart and steal a candy bar, and they'll have it from every angle, including up under the candy bar shelf. But you telling me that we can't see exactly what transpired in this man's death? And I guess my question to you is, what should be our response? And I know we're not getting ready to go out and tear nothing up. We're not going to riot. What should be our response? What say you, good people? And hey, let me before y'all start, Professor, are you on the call? We're wondering who this other number is. Is this you?
Yes, it is, good brother. I'm just sitting here listening in today.
No, you're not listening in nothing. You get the first crack at it. What should be our response?
Oh, Lord.
Well, I guess it's kind of like a broken record at this point. I think we need to start planning on having alternatives to shopping. And what I mean by that is I think that we need to have an economic response to the situation at Walmart. I think we've tried the rioting and all that crap. We've tried the rallies and the stuff that didn't work in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s, and we're still trying it now with the marches. But I think what we need to do is we need to develop a format where we take our money out of mainstream America and start funneling it into rebuilding the black communities. And in doing so, I think our response to that is basically not a boycott, but just a change in values and a change of morals when it comes to our economic prowess. So in addressing a situation like a Walmart, well, we can't necessarily say we'll totally convince the black community to start ignoring Walmart or going other places. But what we can do is we can hit them financially if we continue to change our shopping habits and our spending habits, and eventually foster a situation where we have economic control. See, the reason why we can't get any justice is because there's no consequence for anybody doing us wrong. There's no consequences for fucking us over. We don't stick together, and when we do stick together, we continue to allow the hustlers to get out ahead of all of our particular incidents, and then they move us astray, just like what's happening in Ferguson right now. So I think that we need to organize on a grassroots level and not just talk about it, but start implementing plans and programs so that we can educate people on restructuring our value systems so that we can build an economic block, because anything you do at this point to address a situation that's happening is a reaction to it. We need to be proactive so that we can prevent these situations from happening in the future. So because our outrage gets wasted. And right now, there's a lot of apathy within the community now. I mean, a brother just got shot in the back. He just got executed in the backseat of a police car, and a squad car, while he was handcuffed. And there's really no response to it because now it's happening so often, and there's nothing changing. So we're becoming apathetic to all those situations, and soon it's just going to be like somebody getting hit by a car. You pay attention to it, but it's really not going to change your day. So I think we need to look structurally at doing things similar to what you guys at UI are doing, where you're trying to put together a platform where we can address this thing on a more global scale. And I'm not talking about global in terms of plan. I'm talking about a more universal scale, where we're looking at addressing this thing from the ground up, so that we can build a black community. Because once you have a black community, then all this stuff stops. Because then there'll be a consequence and a proper reaction and a proper response to any of these things going on.
Good points. Yeah, if your number show up on my caller ID, you're going to be a part of the show, whether you like it or not. That's why that 29 number is there. If you just want to listen, call that 29 number. TB, what you think?
All right.
What should we do?
I see it as what it is. It's again, you're dividing this issue along race. You had a black person who's dead. You have white cops that shot him. You take it to a grand jury, and this grand jury decides there's not enough evidence to prosecute these officers. So I see this as people are saying if there are police officers involved, they do not want to put these police officers on trial. They're looking at them as if they are somehow above the law. Because if you pull your gun any place in the United States of America, if you pull that gun out and you fire off a round, and somebody loses their life because of that round, aren't you supposed to face some kind of charge? Even if it's involuntary manslaughter, aren't you supposed to face some kind of punishment? But these grand juries, again, are made up of what society wants it to be made up of. So if you have a grand jury and you have 9 people on the grand jury deciding whether or not someone's going to be charged, and 6 happen to be white and 3 are black, which way you think it's going to go? Conversely, if you got 16 jurors and you got 11 of them that are white and 4 are black. So this is just what it is. It's always going to be political. It's always going to be based on people who are making decisions in their own minds where they think they're not biased, but in fact they really are biased. Because if this is what it's supposed to be, where this man lost his life because 2 officers came in there and opened up on him without assessing the situation. And what gets me about officers, again, is they are supposed to be trained to assess the situation first. That is the predecessor to even drawing your weapon. Assess the situation first. And obviously, for this man to be there, they did not take a damn second to assess anything. So this is why I say, again, yes, we should be finding a way to do something about it, but it does not surprise me because this is the United States of America. We clearly see that this is going to always be a racially divided nation, and anytime someone black winds up dead at the hands of somebody white people are going to band together to say nothing should be done to the white person.
Sorry about that. I had a mute button problem right quick. Hey, you know what really kind of halfway disheartens me about this whole situation? This does not bode well for the chances of justice in the Ferguson, Missouri case, in the Mike Brown case, or in the Eric Garner case, or any of the other hundreds of cases that's winding their way through courts right now where black men have been executed. Because if anything, if compared face to face or side by side, this was actually a more egregious case than Mike Brown. Because in the sense that Mike Brown, they're nothing but witnesses. There's no hard video evidence that shows exactly what happens. So unless something is on that video, that Walmart video, unless there's something on that video that is so just, he turned around and put the gun up to his shoulder, unless there's something on that video, I just can't see how you cannot see that the police was wrong in this situation with video. So in the Mike Brown case, now I'm starting to lean more toward, they might not find that dude guilty. I've always, because everybody that's been listening to me over the last few weeks, I've always been of the mind that he's going to be the sacrificial lamb, and he still might be. But I used to be 60-40. Now I'm moving back toward maybe 55-45 that he'll be found guilty. And if things like this keep happening, it's probably going to look like this dude is going to get off. Pat, what you think?
Well, I've been following this John Crawford story for a while now. I've written more than a few articles about it. And here's the deal. And in regards to Ferguson, I think the Ferguson case is going to be a sacrificial lamb. It won't surprise me if he gets off, but I do think that case is more likely to be a sacrificial lamb because of the media attention and the worldwide pressure and focus that's on it. This case is flying largely under the radar. A lot of people just know there was a man killed in Walmart, so when you say John Crawford, they don't even know who you're talking about. So when we start talking about John Crawford, we have to definitely make the connection for people that John Crawford is the man that was walking around in Walmart on the phone. He picked up a BB gun, an air rifle, that was already removed from the box, because there are some people saying, why did he take it out of the box? It was already removed from the box. He picked it up and continued talking on a cell phone to the mother of his kids, who he was with, who was pregnant with his third child at the time, or is pregnant with his third child. He didn't even know she was pregnant when he got killed. So to go even further, the man was carrying the rifle. From people that have seen the videos, they say he had it over his shoulder. Sometimes he was using it as a cane, just pimping around with it. You got something in your hand and you're just fooling around with it. We all do it. At no time in the video has anybody said you can see him waving the weapon or waving the toy around or doing anything that poses imminent threat to other people? And it's an air rifle. There are some similarities, but there are differences as well to the way a gun looks, a toy looks versus a real gun. Now, we go to the person that made the call, Mr. Ronnie Ritchie, who claimed to be an ex-Marine. Well, yes, he is an ex-Marine, but he only got through 7 weeks of training, which means he didn't even finish basic training. He's a liar, and he's already since begun changing his story. Now he's saying he doesn't remember he doesn't remember the man waving the gun around or pointing it at people. You told the officers, you told dispatch that this man had just loaded the weapon, he was waving it around, and he was about to start killing people. Now we go to the cops who ran in. And from people that have seen the video, they ran in from behind him. They yelled at him to drop the weapon. He said it's not real, and they opened fire. And then they came and told him, get on the ground. Well, you just shot me. I'm on the ground. I'm screaming because I'm shot. Now you're going to tell, and it bears resemblance to the second murder in Ferguson where the young man was shot like 15 times. 3 of the bullets were fired after he was already on the ground, and then they handcuffed his dead body. That's what it bears resemblance to me. Oh, I'm going to cover my tracks real quick. So just in case people that are in the area witnessing can, if they give their report, they can report that they heard me saying, get on the ground. That's what this bears semblance to me. And just the whole story in and of itself, when you really get down to it and really look at it, this man wasn't doing anything wrong. He didn't threaten the police officers. He was never given an opportunity to explain what happened or what was going on. When we see young white people shooting up theaters and shooting up schools and shooting up offices and shooting up universities and shooting up each other and shooting up houses, and they all get a chance to explain their side before they get tased or use some other non-lethal method of taking them down. Why wasn't this man given the same opportunity to even finish the sentence, it's not a real weapon, before he was gunned down? So in reference to what we should do, one thing I think we should do is we need to immediately come to grips with the fact that the Negro leaders are useless, most of them. Because what we're seeing in Ohio already is the Negro leaders stepping in and pacifying the people. You've already got statements from the U.S. Department of Justice and the local police department and the local other governmental officials that are applauding the leaders of the African American community for keeping the community calm and restrained and patient. They don't need any of those things right now. They don't need any of them. They don't need a single one of those things right now. They don't need to be calm. They don't need to be exercising restraint. And they don't need any kind of patience. Patience is worn out. We've been patient long enough. Nobody needs patience. Calm is overrated. The only time anything happens is when calm goes out the window. Angry people get hurt. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Calm is extremely overrated, and you can be angry and calm at the same time. So if you want to say we need to be calmly angry, okay, I can deal with that. But that calm word by itself needs to be thrown out completely. Calm is overrated. As for restraint, yes, there does need to be some restraint, but the restraint needs to be controlled restraint as well. We need to actively be going out and setting precedents that says this is not okay. Via what the professor said, talking about our economic capabilities, our social capabilities. Well, hell, at this point, we might need to take such an extreme measure as to, well, you know, I can't even say that because it's never going to happen, so I'm not going to say that. But in any case, the fact remains.
Say that shit.
Say it.
In any case, the fact definitely remains that the very first thing we need to come to grips with is that our Negro leaders might as well be overseers on the plantation. They're doing what they can do to keep us in the situation we're in so that they can maintain the situation they have and keep reaping the benefits and the rewards of that situation. There has to be something said for all of these pro-black groups that are in existence supposedly working for the benefit of black people, and the fact that there are no tangible results for any of them. Come on, people, let's be real. Any pro-black group that has built its existence off advocating for black people and hasn't ever put forth a plan for the growth of that people are using the plight of that people to maintain a certain level of lifestyle for its higher members. Those people don't want to see us do better, because when we start doing better, they will no longer exist. And not existing is not something that they see, that they take pride in. It's one of the beautiful things about UI. We want to no longer have to exist. We want to work ourselves out of existence. We want to get to a point where Black America no longer needs an advocacy group, because the community is set up, the culture is set up, the education system is set up, the economic system is set up, everything is set up to where we don't need to advocate to somebody else for our freedom or our sustainability or our humanity. The community and the culture in itself has things in place to verify and make sure that our ability to survive as humans is secure. So I think the most important thing we have to do is we have to come to grips with the fact that the vast majority of the modern black advocacy groups are useless, and most of the black Negro leaders are, we call them Negro leaders because that's what they are. They're stuck in a time where black people were being called Negroes. That's where they are. So leave them there. We're not in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s no more. We're in 2014. And we've been trying this same thing for the last 30, 40 years, 50, 60 years, and we're in the same place. That's insanity. We don't like to talk about mental illness, but the black community is insane, certifiable. Write a check on it. Cash it. It's closed. I'm done.
Bottom line, man, is if we are as outraged as we claim to be, and these leaders are as fake as we know they happen to be, where every time something happens, you see Jesse and Al show up, I'm like, why are they always the only two showing up? And then as soon as they show up, you so happen to have a bunch of black folks that stand behind them when the cameras are rolling. So this is what you're speaking to. But the only way to get rid of them is to stop having those people show up behind them with the cameras and just have nobody show up. And just let them know we are tired of the ineffective leadership of our so-called black leaders, because it is obvious that they are doing this for attention. I spoke on this even when I had my own talk show back in Baltimore, because I get sick and tired of never seeing these leaders until a issue happens in which the national media has caught the story. If it's local, you don't see them. If it's national, they show up. Why? Because there's attention now. There's publicity. You know, I get to be on TV across the globe. I get to be on NBC Nightly News and that kind of thing. So these leaders are absolutely what you say they are, but until you have black folks that stop supporting them and speak out against them, they're going to continue to exist.
Yep, and now that this John Crawford story in Ohio is gaining some traction, let's see how quickly one of them races over to Ohio and makes a grand entrance.
It'll happen. It'll happen. And here's something too. Now, the grand jury's decision, they think it was the right decision. Of course, the attorney for the cops says, yeah, it's absolutely the right decision, that the officers acted well within their training. Now, again, that's coming from the attorney for the cops. Conversely, the NAACP chapter's president in that town, his name is Derek Forward, he said the opposite. It's a sad day in the history of Dayton. The grand jury in the Greene County made the wrong decision. So you see how we stand again, black versus white. The white people think it was the right decision. They acted within their training. And then the blacks say, no, it was the wrong decision, and it's a sad day. But what the human side of both blacks and whites should see is that a person lost their life because two officers drew their guns and shot him down. So this is why I am that calmly angry person, because I recognize that I could choose to just write out a will, say this is my last day on earth, and then go get me some guns and just start targeting cops. But that's not going to resolve anything. I'll be dead, the cops will still be alive, and nothing's resolved. So I never advocate for riots. I never advocate for us going out in the street and acting a damn fool, because all that does is highlights the ignorant side of us, and it doesn't expose the wise side of us. So sometimes you do have to find an intelligent strategy for how we're going to attack the problem, as opposed to picking up bricks and throwing them through windows. That's not going to resolve the issue. So what you heard Professor talk about has a lot of weight. Money is what rules America. What do we say? That dollar bill, y'all. That's what talks for you. That's what speaks for you. That's what goes to the voting polls with you. So if we were to decide to stop spending our money in these types of stores where they don't care about anything except the dollar that's in your pocket, then you begin to start to make a little noise. The problem with that is that we have been trained like animals, like goats, like dogs, and like cats to go to these places to shop. You see, so we've got to break our own cycle of ignorance. We've got to break our own cycle of psychological babbleness that says these white places are the only places that you should spend your money. They're not taking any of those white dollars and putting them back into your community, but you're taking the black dollar out of your community and taking it to their community. So you're strengthening their cul-de-sacs and suburbs, you're strengthening their children's education and funding their children's education while they're doing the opposite to yours. At some point, man, you wish we would wake up, but sometimes the scales just stay over the eyes.
And you know what? I'm definitely not sitting here advocating for throwing bricks and going and getting guns and shooting cops. I'm definitely not advocating that. So I thank you for clearing that up. The economic approach can work, and it is the best approach, but at this point, the masses of black America aren't psychologically ready to do what needs to be done. And that's where you always hear me saying, those of us who are what I like to call the actionaries, those of us who are actually trying to do things, we have to do what we can do within our realm of influence and control, and hope that other people will get on board. That means supporting each other wherever we can, in any way that we can. That means standing by each other. That means protecting each other. That means organizing with each other, forming coalitions. That means doing all the things that we can do so that we can begin to build things with those people that are ready to build, and not get caught up in all of those other people that are, we talk about the Matrix a lot, and the Matrix really is a good example because it speaks so closely to our situation where you have people that are asleep. They are trapped in the Matrix, and they are agents. And they don't realize that they could become agents. They don't realize they're trapped in the Matrix, and they don't realize that you're the good guy fighting to free them. So, but what you see them doing in the Matrix? They weren't going in trying to unplug every single person in the Matrix. No. They were trying to crash the system as a whole. They were trying to restructure the system in a way that was beneficial for everybody involved. That's what we have to do. When you hear me talk about building the house, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We, in my opinion, too many black resources and black intellect has been wasted trying to wake people up that are not going to wake up. I'm not saying you give up on the people, but I'm saying you direct your resources towards people that are showing signs of being stirred. If somebody's not showing any signs of being stirred, you should not waste your resources trying to wake them. What we should be doing is trying to build institutions, places, cities, and whatnot that will cause people to stir just by the visual, i.e. a black city with a thriving black populace, black media outlets with positive black imagery, a black educational system in an area where the black kids are being pumped out and they're outscoring white counterparts everywhere. These are all institutions that you can build with a relatively small group of people that have a tremendous amount of impact, both in their field, be it economics, if you're talking about businesses, socially, if you're talking about communities, culture-wise, if you're talking about communities, education-wise, if you're talking about educational institutions. But they also have the added benefit of causing other people to look at them and get stirred, to look at them and to begin to think and begin to wonder how these black people over here are able to do these things. Meanwhile, I'm over here and I'm not able to do the same thing, or at least I'm not able to do it with the apparent ease of which they can do it. So I think that's where we have to focus our attention. I think we put way too much emphasis on getting all of black America to wake up. I don't need all of black America to wake up. According to the latest psychological studies, all I need is 10% of black America to wake up. And the rest, the other 90%, will come on board. So I'm not trying to wake up all of black America. And I believe 10% is already awake. They're just not working in unison.
KP, you still with us? You got Brother Jalal still with us, Patrick?
Yeah, it says he's still on. He might be fighting with the mute button.
Okay. Yeah, so I know we definitely have gone over, so I don't know if you want to close us out or not.
Yeah,
so how do you want to handle it?
We've gone about 10 minutes over, so what we're going to do...
But that's a good thing, though. You know, sometimes it's good to go over because we're not limited as we would be if we were, you know, on national television and having, you know, advertisers. We can go a few minutes over when we're talking passionately about these issues. So I think today was, again, a good positive discussion. Okay. You want to take us on home, close us out and take us home?
Hold up. I'm here.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. That's what I'm saying. You want to finish us up? You know, get your.
I mean, there are literally dozens and dozens of different points that you guys have made over the last half an hour or so that y'all been just rolling that I could actually probably say something about or build upon. But, you know, like we always say, when you said it all, what is there to add to it? You know, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you guys said. And to end the subject, I'll say this. I think that economic boycotts, because, you know, that's going to be the first thing that's going to come out of people's mouths. Stop shopping at Walmart. Economic boycotts are useless because, one, you're not going to be able to get enough critical mass behind you for it to make a difference, you know, especially not to a company the size of Walmart. We don't spend enough money there. So that's one of the things I think we should just take off the table in the beginning. I will say this as well. If you look at Europe, when Europeans are upset, especially youngsters, are upset about their government, they tear shit up and they get shit done. You see what I'm saying? Take that same energy and take that same behavior, put it in the hood. They're looters, they're vandals, they're, you know, what they're doing is not helping anything. That's true. But if you look at the main difference between the Europeans and the African American community in the United States, the Europeans tear up shit that matter. We tear up the local Quickie Mart. We'll go burn down the gas station. Europeans, they take that shit to the Loop in Chicago. They take that shit to to Wall Street in New York. They take that shit down on K Street in Washington, D.C. They tear up shit that matter. So I'm never one to say armed and or physical insurrection is a bad thing, because no government, good or bad, in this world ever in history has been overthrown by, or I don't even say overthrown, has been changed by praying, by holding hands, by singing, by marching around the block. None of that shit worked. If you want people out of office, if you want a system to stop oppressing you, you rise up against your oppressors. That's it. That's all. Now, how you do that, that's a matter of debate. And I'm not advocating for anybody to get a gun and go try and kill nobody, because we'll be reading about you next week, because that's not the way to go. There are methods out there where it can happen, but knee-jerk reactions is not going to get it done. And with that, I want to end the show. We done ran over a little bit. We've been a little bit more passionate than we normally do. We started out kind of shaky as far as the technical difficulties is concerned, and I apologize to everybody for that. But I think that as we went along, we basically found our stride, as we always do. Now, because Professor Carl is still on the call, because I noticed that David just jumped on and jumped off. Every time I start to call on people, David jump off. That's okay. I'm going to get you, bro. Professor, give me 2 minutes worth of positivity.
It's crazy. But I'll tell you, one of the things I do is I broadcast my radio show from my porch. So if anybody has the opportunity to listen in to From the Porch with Professor Carl Jones broadcast every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, one of the benefits from doing it from my porch is that people walk up and down the street get to listen to at least my side of what's going on the air. Now, I've been approached by about 2 or 3 different people over the last couple of days who have informed me that just based on listening to some of the things that they've heard us talk about, it's actually had an impact on their life, and now they look at things through a different lens. They start to address white supremacy. They start to address black empowerment in different forms and different phrases. So I'm saying that to say that what we do matters, and it is getting out there to people, and we are slowly but surely changing the culture. And I just want to thank you guys for having a midday radio outlet, media outlet, whereas you bring pressing issues home. And I think that the positive thing is that it's growing, because I'm noticing the listenership, I'm noticing the likes, and I'm noticing that there are people who are generally interested in having this, and I think you guys are filling a void in our community that is definitely needed. So in saying that, I just want to say, keep pushing, and let's continue to get ahead of these things so that we can replace the Jesse Jacksons and Al Sharptons as the voices of not just reason, but the voices of revolution for our situation, so that we can be liberated in all phases from white supremacy, and that's any dependency on it, and we can take command and control of our communities.
I thank you, brother. I thank you for those kind words. And as the brother said, this is something that I said that I meant to do, and I actually forgot about it until you actually said something, brother. And I thank you for that. We need to start supporting the other shows, that's the UI shows, as well as the shows that we believe going in the same direction as UI. On the Porch with Professor Carl, that's one of the shows that we need to support. KD's show we need to support. There's 2 or 3 other ones out there that their names don't come to mind right away. But if you look around the UI site, either on Facebook or on our site together, we try and support each other. I've been saying that I was going to make time to be on Professor Carl's show, but unfortunately, that's the same time as our Bridging the Gap and Black Relationships show, I think it is. But we have worked that out in the wash. First of all, I want to thank Professor Carl for being here. I want to thank David for sticking his head in the door. I'm going to catch you, brother. I'm going to catch you. I want to thank TB, who had to bail on me. As always, my main partner in crime, Black Pat, I thank you for being here. Again, Urban Intellectuals /members, if you want to become a member of something that's trying to uplift us all, or if you just want to donate to the cause, urbanintellectuals.com/donate. And with that, show number 26, what is the date? The 24th of September 2014 is in the can. look for us tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and we'll be here to do it all over again. Peace.